Hey guys, welcome to Through the Looking Glass. On today's episode, I actually sent in one of my old notes into NotebookLM, and let's see what deep dive they come up with.
Have you ever been in a situation where you physically felt the weight of a secret? Like right on your chest. And I don't mean a fun secret, like a surprise party or something.
No.
I mean the kind of heavy, dark, jagged secret.
Yeah.
The kind that's made up of things you know are true, but you feel like you aren't allowed to say them.
Right.
It's that visceral pressure where your heart rate just spikes, your palms get sweaty, and you have this overwhelming, almost magnetic urge to just open your mouth and let it all spill out.
It's a very common biological response, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. When we hold back high-stakes information, what we're doing is we're essentially engaging in a constant state of inhibition. The brain is screaming, act, right? But the prefrontal cortex is screaming, wait. And that conflict, it creates a massive amount of cortisol. It's like the body is bracing for an impact.
But the impact never comes.
Exactly. It never comes because you're the one holding the brakes. You're creating the tension yourself.
That is exactly the feeling. It's that tension, right? The pull between the safety of keeping your mouth shut and the absolute, almost destructive necessity of the truth.
Destructive is a good word for it.
It really feels like you're holding a dam back with your bare hands.
Yeah.
And you know that if you just stepped aside, the water would destroy everything. But man, it would also be such a relief to just stop pushing.
And that right there, that leads to the fantasy. I think almost everyone, whether they want to admit it or not, has entertained the scorched earth fantasy.
Oh, 100%. The fantasy where you just strike a match, you toss it onto the whole pile of polite fictions everyone is living by, and you just watch the facade burn.
It's a powerful image.
It's terrifying, sure, but there's something so, undeniably exhilarating about the idea of total transparency, just leveling the playing field for once.
But usually we don't do it.
No.
We prioritize, social cohesion over our personal truth. We swallow it. We keep pushing on that dam.
We do. However, today we are looking at a source that explores what happens when you sit right on that edge, that absolute razor's edge between silence and total detonation.
It's a fascinating place to be psychologically.
So today we are digging deep into a piece of writing by an author named Lindsay-Michele, and it's titled, Some Days I Want to Say It All. Now, to set the stage for you listening, this isn't a news article. It's not a scientific study with, charts and graphs. This is what I would call a primary source document of emotional reality.
But the primary source, yes. It's a first-hand account.
Exactly. It's a narrative essay that just unpacks the exhaustion of being the one who remembers the truth when everyone else seems to have conveniently forgotten.
And what makes this source so valuable for a deep dive like this is that it serves as a kind of case study. We can use this text to really understand the mechanics of gaslighting, the psychology of public perception, and the incredible cognitive load, the sheer mental weight of trying to manage a narrative that has just spun completely out of your control.
A narrative someone else wrote for you.
Precisely. It's a look at what I call the architecture of a narrative and how that architecture can be and often is weaponized.
So our mission today is to take this raw, emotional text and really break it down into understandable parts. We want to understand why telling the truth is so often so much harder than telling a lie.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
It is. And we want to figure out why the world tends to side with the polished person rather than the honest person. And I think ultimately we want to find the pivot point the author reaches, that moment where the pain starts to transform into purpose.
It's about moving from that fantasy of destruction you mentioned to the reality of construction. But to get there, you're right, we have to start with the fire.
Let's do it. Let's jump right into that opening imagery because it sets the tone for this entire discussion. Lindsay-Michele writes, Some days I want to say it all, not just parts, not just pieces.
And that distinction is so important.
It is. She continues, I want to lay every truth on the table, light a match, and watch the fire burn through every lie, every manipulation, every narrative they created to protect themselves at the expense of me.
Wow. Okay, so there is a very specific psychological concept at play here. It's in that distinction she makes between parts and pieces and saying it all.
Tell me about that.
When we experience a traumatic event or a prolonged period of manipulation, our memory often stores it in fragments. It's not a neat linear movie. It's snapshots, shards of glass.
So the desire she's expressing here
is for Gestalt. For the whole. She wants integration. She's tired of the fragments.
Because telling just parts feels like you're lying, doesn't it? Or at least lying by omission.
It can, yeah.
If I tell you I yelled at my business partner, that's a part. That's a piece of the story.
It's a fact, yes.
But if I don't tell you about the, say, 10 years of embezzlement that led up to that yell, then I haven't really told you the truth. I've given you a fact, but I've not given you the reality of the situation.
Precisely. And that is where the deep exhaustion sets in. Context is heavy. Context takes time to explain. Parts and pieces are really easy for people to digest, but they are so often misleading.
Like a headline without the article.
Exactly. The author's urge to say it all is a rebellion against the insufficiency of those fragments. She knows that unless she can dump the entire puzzle box on the table at once, people will only look at the 3 pieces they can see.
And they'll draw completely the wrong conclusion from them.
Every time. They'll build their own story from those 3 pieces, and it will be wrong.
And the target of this fire she wants to set. Notice she doesn't say she wants to burn the people.
That's a great point.
She said she wants to burn the narrative. She wants to burn every lie, every manipulation. It feels like an attack on the artificial structure, not a physical threat to a person.
It's a very important distinction to make. We so often conflate anger with violence, but in this context, the fire is clarity, it's truth.
Like sunlight being the best disinfectant.
Think about it. Light is destructive to shadows. Truth is destructive to lies. So when she says burn, she effectively means reveal. But of course, to the people who are hiding inside those lies, revelation feels like burning.
It would feel like an attack.
To them, it is an attack. It's an attack on the very foundation of their false reality.
She also mentions that these narratives were created to protect themselves at the expense of me. And this, to me, brings up the transactional nature of a smear campaign or a false narrative.
Yes, transactional is the perfect word.
It's not just that the antagonist is lying, it's that they are using the author's reputation as a kind of collateral damage to save their own skin.
That's the parasitic element. In psychology, we often look at DARVO dynamics. It's an acronym. It stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
DARVO.
The antagonist isn't just denying their bad behavior. That's step 1. They then attack the person bringing it up, and then, crucially, they reverse the roles. They become the victim, and the actual victim becomes the aggressor.
So they flip the script entirely.
They flip it. And to make that news story work, they have to spend the victim's credibility. They have to bankrupt the victim's reputation in order to purchase their own innocence.
Wow, bankrupting the victim's reputation. That is such a good way to put it. And that leads us directly to the sheer fatigue that's described in the next section. I think anyone who's had to manage a difficult relationship or even just a public misunderstanding will relate to this. She writes, because I'm tired of having to constantly think everything through.
Wait, let's just pause on that word. Fatigue. This isn't just, I need a nap, tired.
No.
This is decision fatigue compounded by a state of constant, unrelenting hypervigilance. It's an exhaustion of the soul.
She even lists the specific things she has to police. Every post, every word, every move. It sounds like she's living in a totalitarian state where she's both the dictator and the citizen.
That's a great analogy.
She has to censor herself before she even speaks, before she even acts.
Think about the cognitive load of that for a second. The sheer amount of mental energy it takes.
I can't even imagine.
The average person posts this photo of their coffee because they like the latte art. It's simple. Input, output. Done. But for someone in this position, someone who knows they're being watched by people looking for ammunition, that simple, innocent act becomes a complex, strategic calculation.
Okay, so walk us through that calculation. What is actually happening in the brain at that moment?
Well, everything she thinks or does has to go through what I'd call a threat assessment filter. Before she can post the picture of the coffee, her brain has to run a whole simulation.
A simulation of grid.
Of all the possible negative interpretations. If I post this, will they say I'm wasting money? Will they say I'm ignoring my responsibilities and just relaxing? If I caption it tired, will they use that to claim I'm unstable? If I caption it happy, will they say I'm being fake and performative?
My God.
She has to win an imaginary argument with an imaginary jury before she can even hit the share button.
That sounds absolutely paralyzing.
Right.
It's like playing 4D chess just to exist on a Tuesday morning.
It is paralyzing. And from a neurological standpoint, it depletes the brain's executive function. You only have a limited amount of willpower and decision-making energy in a given day.
Like a battery.
Exactly like a battery.
Right.
And if you spend 80% of your charge just trying to navigate the minefield of your own expression, you have nothing left for your actual life, for your work, your joy, your relationships, your healing.
And she says it so explicitly. She's tired of holding back, not out of fear, but out of the constant awareness that there are people waiting to twist my words, weaponize my emotions.
Weaponize my emotions.
That phrase just jumped right off the page at me. It suggests that her feelings aren't just feelings anymore. They're potential armaments for the enemy.
This is a classic tactic in high conflict dynamics. It's about taking the victim's natural human reactions and reframing them as evidence against them.
How does that work?
Well, if the target shows sadness, it's twisted into proof of weakness or guilt. If they show anger.
Oh, then they're unstable.
Exactly. Proof of instability. If they show joy, it's proof that they're callous and that the problem wasn't a big deal after all. There is no safe emotion to display.
So what do you do?
So the victim learns to become a gray rock. They try to show nothing, blank face, neutral tone. But showing nothing requires immense, constant effort. It's the effort of holding a beach ball underwater. You can do it, but you can't do anything else, and you're exhausted.
And the fundamental injustice of it is that she has to do all this work, holding the beach ball down, running the threat assessments, while the other side is just, frolicking in the waves. They're just living their lives.
That asymmetry is the source of the deepest resentment. It often hurts more than the original offense.
You think so?
I do. It's not just the abuse. It's the ease with which the abuser gets to move through the world afterward, unburdened.
Let's get into that, because the text makes a very sharp pivot here to contrast her experience with the experience of them. She writes, "Meanwhile, the people who cause the damage, they get to move freely. They lie without hesitation. They perform innocence like it's a role they were born to play."
Okay, perform innocence. That is a critical phrase. We need to talk about impression management.
Impression management. What's that?
It's a concept from sociology and social psychology. At its core, it's the conscious or subconscious process in which people attempt to influence the perceptions of other people about a person, an object, or an event.
So managing their image.
Exactly. In this case, the antagonists are experts at it. They are performing innocence.
That wording is so deliberate. It implies that innocence is something you can put on, like a costume.
It is. And here's the scary part. Often, the people who are guilty are actually better at performing innocence than the people who are truly innocent.
How can that be? That seems so backwards. You'd think the truth would make you look innocent naturally.
Not necessarily, because real innocence is often messy.
Messy how?
If you are falsely accused of something terrible, what's your reaction? You might be confused, stuttering, angry, crying. You might not have your story perfectly straight because you're in shock. You might look guilty to an outsider because you are so distressed.
Okay, I see that.
But a liar has had time to prepare. A liar has rehearsed. A liar knows exactly what a calm, innocent person is supposed to look like. They are calm. They are charming. They maintain perfect eye contact because they've read somewhere that liars don't make eye contact.
So they're hacking the system.
They are hacking the social cues we all use to determine truth. It's a performance.
And she says they carry nothing but the lies they polished up.
Let's talk about that polish for a second. This connects directly to a cognitive bias called cognitive ease.
Cognitive ease.
The human brain is fundamentally lazy. It's designed to conserve energy, so it prefers things that are simple, familiar, and easy to process. A simple, consistent, polished lie is very aerodynamic to the brain. It just slides right in without any friction.
Whereas the truth
is usually bumpy. It's complicated. It has contradictions. It has gaps in memory. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but I know it was dark outside. That's the truth, but it sounds weak and uncertain.
Comparative.
Compared to it was 9:02 p.m. That sounds strong, certain, and credible, even if it's a complete fabrication. The antagonist in this text has polished their story. They have sanded off all the rough, truthful edges so it slides easily into the minds of the public.
That is just terrifying. It means the truth is at a structural disadvantage just by its very nature.
In many ways it is. And the text says, and the world eats it up. Of course the world eats it up. The world wants a simple story.
It wants the easy answer.
The world doesn't want to hear that the charming guy at the party is actually a skilled manipulator. That's uncomfortable. It causes cognitive dissonance. So if he offers a polished lie that explains everything away neatly,
the world grabs it with both hands.
They grab it because it allows them to stay comfortable. It resolves the dissonance.
And then we get to this awful double bind that the author faces. This is the catch-22. She writes, because silence looks like guilt. and anger looks like instability.
This touches on the heuristics, the mental shortcuts that we use to judge character. We are taught, legally and culturally, that innocent people shout it from the rooftops. They defend themselves.
Right. So if someone is silent,
we assume they have something to hide. It's the Fifth Amendment fallacy. We see someone refuse to answer a question, and our immediate thought is, gotcha.
Guilty.
Right. But in an interpersonal trauma dynamic, silence is often a shield. It's a calculated strategy for survival. You aren't silent because you're guilty. You're silent because you know from experience that anything you say will be twisted and used against you.
So you're just hiding in the bunker.
You're hiding in the bunker, but to the person standing outside the bunker, it just looks like you're refusing to come out and face the music.
And then there's the other side of that coin. Anger looks like instability. This is the one that really gets me.
It's a powerful tool of dismissal.
If someone burned your house down, you'd be on the front lawn screaming. It's a rational response. But if you scream, the neighbors peek through the blinds and say, wow, look how crazy he is. No wonder his house burned down.
That is tone policing in its purest form. It's a way of dismissing a valid complaint by attacking the delivery method instead of the content. And it is incredibly effective against victims.
Because there's this expectation.
There's an expectation that you must be the perfect victim. The perfect victim is sad but beautiful. They cry a single, elegant tear. They are never loud. They are never messy. They are never, ever angry.
But that's not how trauma works. Trauma is ugly. It's messy.
Exactly. Trauma is a physiological state of high arousal. It's your nervous system and fight or flight. Anger is a mobilization of energy to protect oneself from a threat. It's a sign of a healthy, functioning survival system.
But society takes that healthy response.
And as the text points out, it weaponizes it. If you show the righteous anger that the abuse caused, the abuser just points to your anger and says to everyone, see, I told you she was crazy. I told you she was unstable.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy they create. They poke you with a stick until you finally snap, and then they use the snap as proof that you needed to be poked in the first place.
That is the insidious cycle. And Lindsay-Michele, the author, she challenges this directly. She writes, but here's the truth. I'm not silent because I'm scared, and I'm not angry because I haven't healed.
I love this part.
Then she delivers the line, I'm angry because I've lived it.
I'm angry because I've lived it.
Yeah.
It's like she's reclaiming her emotion as evidence, not as a symptom, but as a scar.
She is validating her own reality. She is saying that her anger is not a malfunction. It is a record. It is the body keeping the score.
Like a living archive of what happened.
Yes. By framing anger as a logical consequence of living it, she takes the weapon out of the antagonist's hand. She's essentially saying, my anger doesn't prove that I'm crazy. It proves that you are guilty.
It's a really powerful mental shift. But let's be real for a second. It must be so lonely.
Incredibly lonely.
The text moves into this deep sense of isolation. She describes carrying the heavy, messy truth while the liars are just, handing out their polished, easy-to-swallow stories to anyone who would listen. It feels like being the only sober person at a party where everyone else is just completely drunk on the Kool-Aid.
And that isolation is where the crisis of faith happens. When you are the only one holding on to the truth and the feedback loop from the entire world is telling you you're wrong, it erodes your resolve. It makes you question your own sanity.
And this brings us to the part of the text where she admits she just wants to quit, to give up. She writes, some days I want to delete everything, take down every post, shut down every space where my voice exists. And then she asks the question, because what's the point, right?
The delete impulse.
Yeah.
It's the desire for erasure. It's the flight response finally kicking in after all that fight. If I can't win this battle, I can at least disappear from the battlefield.
I think a lot of listeners can probably relate to that feeling of futility. Maybe not with a public scandal, but even in a workplace setting. You try to fix a problem, nobody listens. The person causing the problem gets promoted.
Right.
And eventually you just throw your hands up and think, why do I even bother?
It's a psychological phenomenon called learned helplessness. When your actions, in this case telling the truth, don't produce the expected result, which is justice.
And in fact, produce a negative result.
Yes, and instead produce a negative result, like backlash. The brain starts to learn that action is futile. It learns that trying is pointless, so it stops trying.
And she says it so starkly. Honesty comes with backlash, and fake kindness gets applause. That is such a stinging indictment of our culture. Why do we applaud fake kindness?
Because fake kindness is a social lubricant. It keeps things running smoothly. It avoids conflict. It makes the dinner party pleasant.
It keeps the peace.
It keeps the peace. But honesty, Real, raw, messy honesty is sand in the gears. It stops the machine. We claim as a society to value truth above all else, but functionally, in our day-to-day lives, we value comfort.
So we reward the person who keeps us comfortable, even if we suspect they're lying.
We do.
And we punish the person who makes us uncomfortable, even if we know they're telling the truth.
Correct. And realizing that, truly realizing that the game is rigged against honesty, that is the moment of deepest despair. That's the moment where the delete button looks really, really good. You think, if the world wants to be lied to, then let it be lied to. I'm out.
She doesn't press delete. And this is the turning point of the entire piece and of this deep dive. This is where we start to climb out of that hole. She writes, but I remind myself,
a conscious choice.
I'm not just here to vent. I'm not just trying to get it off my chest. I'm sharing my story with intention.
Intention. That is the magic word. That is the pivot.
Why is that word so important?
Because it shifts the entire activity from a reactive release of pressure, which is what venting is, to a proactive strategic act. Sharing.
What is the difference psychologically between venting and sharing with intention?
Venting is fundamentally about me. It's about getting the poison out of my system so I can feel better. And it can feel good for a second, but it doesn't really change anything in the long run.
It's just letting off steam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sharing with intention is about you. It's about the recipient. It takes the pain and turns it into a tool. It gives it a purpose beyond your own relief.
And she identifies exactly who that tool is for. And it's not the antagonist. It's not the general audience at large.
No.
She says, because somewhere out there, someone is sitting in the same silence I used to sit in. They're swallowing the same pain.
This is the moment she stops looking back at the people who hurt her, and she starts looking forward for the people she can help. This is the core of Viktor Frankl's work on logotherapy, finding meaning in suffering. If her pain, her story, can serve as a map for someone else who is lost in that same dark forest, then the pain wasn't entirely in vain. It's been alchemized into something useful.
She creates this very specific avatar of a listener. Someone who is second-guessing what happened to them because someone else is rewriting their truth.
Rewriting their truth. That is the most concise definition of gaslighting I have ever heard. It's not just lying. It's actively editing someone else's memory. It's overwriting their file with a corrupted version.
And she offers 3 specific pillars of reassurance to this person, to this avatar. She wants them to know 3 things. Number 1, you are not crazy.
That is the big one. That's the foundation. The primary goal of a gaslighter is to make the victim question their own sanity. By saying you are not crazy, she provides an external anchor to reality. She's a second opinion when you've been led to believe you're the only one who sees things this way.
Okay, pillar number 2, you are not dramatic.
That directly addresses the tone policing we were just talking about. Dramatic, hysterical, overreacting. These are the labels used to dismiss the emotional reaction to abuse.
So when she says, you aren't dramatic,
she validates the magnitude of the pain. She's saying, no, your reaction is perfectly proportional to what happened to you. Your house is on fire. It's okay to scream.
And the third and final pillar, you are not alone.
And that one attacks the isolation. Abusers and manipulators almost always try to isolate their victims because that's how they control the narrative. If you feel utterly alone, you are weak. You are suggestible.
But if you know there are others.
If you know there is a whole legion of other people who have felt this exact same way, you gain strength. You realize this is a pattern, a tactic, and not a personal failing.
So by stating these 3 things, she is actively dismantling the cage that the antagonist built around this other person. It's like she's smuggling a key under the door to someone else's cell.
And that act, the act of passing the key, is what gives her the energy to keep going. She writes, so I keep going. I keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when I want to burn it all down.
This really redefines resilience for me. We often think resilience means you just don't feel the pain. Yeah. Like you're Superman and the bullets just bounce off your chest.
The stoic ideal, yeah.
But she's saying, no, the bullets hurt. They hurt a lot. I want to burn it down, but I show up anyway.
True resilience is action in spite of the feeling. It's not the absence of the urge to quit. It's the refusal to obey that urge.
And she's very clear about her motive now. She says, this isn't about revenge. This is about truth. This is about healing.
That distinction is so crucial for anyone listening to understand. Revenge is a trap.
How is it a trap?
If your goal is revenge, you are still letting the abuser dictate your actions. Your life is still a reaction to them. You are still dancing with them, just to a different song. Your focus is on them.
It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
That's the classic saying, and it's true. But if your goal is truth and healing, those are autonomous goals. They belong to you. You can pursue truth without the abuser's participation. You can pursue healing regardless of whether they ever apologize or face consequences. It cuts the cord.
She then sets a new metric for success. And I think this is so important for anyone out there who feels like they're fighting a narrative battle. She doesn't say, I'll be happy when everyone believes me.
Which is an impossible goal.
It is. Instead, she says, if even one person reads my words and sees themselves in them, they know they matter.
It's the starfish story principle. Are you familiar with that story?
Vaguely. Remind me.
There's an old man walking on a beach after a storm, and the beach is covered in thousands of dying starfish that have washed ashore. He sees a young boy walking along, picking them up one by one and throwing them back into the ocean. The old man scoffs and says, "Son, why are you bothering? There are thousands of them. You can't possibly make a difference." The boy picks up another starfish, throws it back into the water, and says, "It made a difference to that one."
That's exactly it. She shrinks the battlefield. She stops trying to win the massive, unwinnable war for public opinion, which is impossible to control, and she focuses on the small, vital skirmish for one person's soul.
And that is a winnable fight. If you can validate one person, if you can make them feel seen, you have changed the world for that person. That gives the suffering utility. It redeems it.
But she doesn't end on a simple, triumphant high note of, and now everything is great.
No, that would be dishonest.
She brings it right back to the gritty, day-to-day reality of the process. She writes, so no, today wasn't a peaceful day. It wasn't a quiet healing day. It was one of those days.
One of those days. I love that phrase. It grounds the whole piece in reality. Healing isn't linear. It's not a montage in a feel-good movie where you jog on the beach for 2 minutes and suddenly you're fine.
No, it's a messy up-and-down graph with lots of setbacks.
A total scribble.
She describes the physical sensation of it. The kind where everything feels heavy and I feel like screaming just to make space in my own body again.
Okay, can we unpack that phrase for a second? To make space in my own body.
It's so visceral.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's literally true. Somatic therapy and trauma research tell us that trauma lives in the body. When you are suppressed, when you are swallowing your truth day after day, it physically crowds you. It creates tightness in the chest, pressure in the throat, blockage in the gut. You feel full of the unsaid.
So the scream, or in her case, the writing, is an excavation. It's a way of getting it out.
Yes. You have to expel the ghost of the trauma to make room for your own breath, your own spirit, to fully inhabit your body again. Writing is a way of exhaling toxic air that you've been holding in for way too long.
And that's her final action. She says, but I wrote instead, and I'm sharing it, because that's how I take my power back, one truth at a time.
One truth at a time. It breaks the overwhelming, impossible task of saying it all into manageable bricks. You don't build the new house in a single day. You lay one brick of truth, and then the next day you lay another.
And her sign-off, I think, just captures the duality of this whole experience perfectly. She signs off with raw truth and steady love.
Raw and steady. Those are two words that are usually opposites. Raw is fresh, maybe bleeding, unstable. Steady is old, healed, firm, and reliable.
But she claims both of them at the same time.
And in doing so, she is modeling that you can be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. You can be actively hurting, that's the raw truth, and yet still be a source of stability and strength, the steady love for other people.
You don't have to be fully fixed to be valuable to someone else.
That's it. That is such a relief to hear, I think. We often feel like we have to wait until we feel perfectly steady before we're allowed to share our raw truth. But she's doing them simultaneously. Her rawness is her steadiness for someone else.
And finally, she just leaves the door wide open. She says, I share my story not for sympathy, but for connection. Sympathy versus connection. What's the difference in your mind?
Sympathy is vertical. It's someone standing at the top of a pit looking down at you and saying, well, that looks terrible down there. Hope you get out soon. It inherently creates distance. It's pity. Connection is horizontal. It's someone climbing down to the pit, sitting next to you in the mud and saying, I know what this mud feels like. I've been here too.
So sympathy is poor you.
And connection is me too.
And me too is the most powerful force in the world for breaking that gaslighting-induced isolation.
Absolutely. It's the antidote.
She ends with this direct address. If you've ever felt like your truth was too heavy, too messy, or too real, know that you're not alone.
And in that line, she's validating the mess. We circle right back to where we started. The polished lie versus the messy truth. She is telling us and anyone listening that the mess is not a sign of your failure. The mess is the watermark of authenticity.
So let's zoom out for a second and look at what we've covered today. We started with that burning primal urge to destroy the false narrative.
The match and the gasoline.
Exactly. We walked through the deep exhaustion of managing the truth,
Yeah.
the unfair structural advantage of the polished liar, and the overwhelming temptation to just hit delete and disappear.
And we arrived at the pivot, the moment of intention. Using that pain not as a weapon for revenge, but as a tool to build a shelter for someone else.
Yeah. We moved from the fantasy of burning it all down to the much harder reality of building it back up, one truth at a time.
Person at a time.
It really makes you rethink how we consume stories in our own lives. You know, on social media, in the news, even among friends. When we see someone perfectly composed performing that innocence, maybe we should be a little more skeptical.
Yeah.
And when we see someone messy and angry and struggling to get the words out, maybe that's the person we should listen to a little closer.
We need to recalibrate our detectors for truth. We've been trained to value the smooth, polished surface, but that's often just the lie. We need to learn to value the jagged edge of reality.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. The text suggests we often silence ourselves because we fear our truth is too messy for a world that prefers those polished lies. But if the polished version is, by definition, fake, isn't the messiness actually the only proof of reality we have?
That's a powerful idea.
Perhaps the mess isn't the shame. Perhaps the mess is the dignity.
The mess means you survived. The mess means you're still here, fighting for the space in your own body.
So, to everyone listening right now, if you are sitting on a truth that feels like an anvil on your chest, just take a breath. You don't have to launch a nuclear strike today. You don't have to convince the whole world.
No.
But maybe, just maybe, you can share one small piece of it with intention. Not to burn them down, but to find the others.
Find your connection.
Find your connection. Because you aren't crazy. You aren't dramatic. And you are definitely not alone. Thanks for diving in with us.
Take care of yourselves.
So, if this resonated, you could follow Through the Looking Glass for more of these deep dives. And if you want the full episodes, my main show is Down the Rabbit Hole Unfiltered. And you could follow wherever you're listening, and I'll see you there.